Good morning or good afternoon. I would like to welcome everyone to the Cisco Support Community Expert Series webcast, Configure and Troubleshoot Wired and Wireless Networks using Cisco Prime Infrastructure. We're glad to have you with us. A few housekeeping notes to begin. As you've entered the WebEx console, the session is being streamed via audio broadcast and requires that you leave the WebEx media icon on your laptop for the duration of this program. If at any time you delete this icon and are disconnected from audio, you can go to the Communicate menu at the top toolbar and click on Join Audio Broadcast. We do encourage you to ask questions at any time during today's event. Simply type your question in the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your console and click Send. If you need technical assistance, please direct your question to the host. Otherwise, please send your questions to all panelists. If at any time you are viewing the presentation in full screen, you can display the Q&A panel by clicking the question mark icon in your floating toolbar, usually found in the lower right corner of your screen. At this time, I'd like to introduce our host for today, Dan Gerson.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cisco Support Community. Today, we present a live Cisco Support Community Expert Series webcast. Our topic today is Configure and Troubleshoot Wired and Wireless Networks using Cisco Prime Infrastructure. My name is Dan Gerson, and I'll be moderating today's event. Our expert joining me today is Tejas Shah. Tejas is a Senior Technical Marketing Engineer for Cisco Prime Infrastructure and Collaboration Products. He has deployed Cisco Prime Collaboration Manager at various customer sites to help customers monitor and troubleshoot their video infrastructure. In addition, he has been part of the Cisco Network Operations team, live events team for over 6 years. Shah joined Cisco in 1995 and has been in the Technical Assistance Center supporting various network management system products for more than 6 years. Welcome, Tejas.
Hey, thanks, Dan.
Our expert panelist today is the CCIE, Chris McGuire. He will be helping today in answering some of your technical questions during the event. Now I'd like to briefly outline the format for today's Expert Series event. Our expert will start with a presentation on Cisco Prime Infrastructure for the first hour of the program, and then we will provide an answer to the question, what does one of the world's oldest airlines and Cisco Prime Infrastructure have in common? So stay tuned for that. Then we'll dive into the live question submission from the audience for the remainder of the event. During our live presentation, you may submit your technical questions to be answered by our presenter and the expert panelist using the Q&A box on the right side of your console. The team of experts is well-versed in Cisco Prime, so please begin posting your questions now to give us the best chance of answering them. If you experience any technical issues, please post those questions into the chat. We'll be asking polling questions during the webcast, and we absolutely encourage you to participate and answer them. To follow along, you may also download a copy of today's PDF presentation using the link in the chat window. Also, everyone who joins today will receive 125 Cisco Preferred Access points. Now, let's get started with today's event, and we'll kick things off with a polling question. How familiar are you with Cisco Prime Infrastructure? Please choose one. A, I'm hearing about Cisco Prime Infrastructure for the first time. B, somewhat familiar. C, I've heard about it but not evaluated it yet. D, I'm currently evaluating it in our test lab. Or E, I'm currently using it in our product infrastructure. Please take a moment to answer so that Tejas can better tailor his presentation to you, the audience. Don't forget, you can submit your questions at any time during the webcast, and we will answer them. Now I'd like to hand the mic over to our expert, Tejas Shah, who will give you his take on the world of Cisco Prime Network Infrastructure. Tejas?
Thanks, Dan. That was a great overview. Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing all right. So today we'll be talking about how do you configure and troubleshoot wired and wireless network using Cisco Prime Infrastructure. All right. So basically what I'm going to be talking about is a quick overview in case people haven't heard about Prime and or Prime Infrastructure. We'll have a quick overview of that. We'll go dive directly into our topic for today. There are mainly two parts in this topic. One is about configuration management, and the second one is about troubleshooting. So we'll review both of these topics with the perspective of wired as well as with the wireless. So as you may have already seen, the wired and wireless, infrastructure management is at a, verge of converging. And this is exactly what this product is all about, converging wired and wireless application. So today we'll review what does it take really to, manage both of them simultaneously. And we've been actively doing this over past, couple of years in Cisco Lives. So hopefully I can also, chime in some good feedback that we had from Cisco Lives at times. All right. So quick overview of, what exactly is Cisco Prime. So Cisco Prime was a vision that was started about a couple of years ago within the network management business unit inside Cisco. And this actually came in from a lot of different customers, and to the comments where, hey guys, products within Cisco's don't even look the same. They don't even look like they come from the same company. And that was a pretty big comment. And this stirred up a lot of thinking about, can we change the direction of how we're headed, as far as network management? And that gave, rise to Cisco Prime. So what exactly is Prime? So Prime is, again, a vision that we have within Cisco. And the idea is that we want to have consistent, way we install products, consistent way our products look within Cisco. We want to have, a consistent, ROI or consistent, getting started with using the product, over and over for different, regardless of what that product is doing or what that product is managing. And that was the overall, vision for Cisco Prime. Now, Cisco Prime Infrastructure, fits right within that Cisco Prime vision. So Cisco Prime Infrastructure allows you to manage your wired and wireless infrastructure with the ability to manage your endpoints, the end users, the end devices, and the application that they're using. So if I can, hold you right here and take you back in history for a minute, what exactly were we doing, before we came out with Cisco Prime Infrastructure? So we used to have Cisco Prime LMS on one side that was used to manage our wired infrastructure kind of things, and then we had something called the Cisco Prime NCS, or even before that, it used to be called the WCS, the Wireless Controller System. And then it became the network control system that was used to manage the wireless, side of things as far as the infrastructure goes. And then on top of that, we needed to have something that could allow you to manage performance, measurements within the network. And that meant, performance of your applications or performance of, your network, latency, your network responsiveness, and so on. So there used to be three distinct products that we are actually, converging with the single Cisco Prime Infrastructure. So the integrated lifecycle here deals with managing the wired and the wireless portion within the product. The compliance here, gives us some automation capabilities. We are not fully there yet, but we are starting there. For now, it gives you the basic compliance, for example, the end of life, end of sale report, or the PCERT report, and so on. And then going forward, we'll add more compliance pieces to it. The assure part, or the assurance, allows you to, see who your end users are, what application they're using, and are there any performance, hits in the network that you need to be aware of? Are there any choke points, on your WAN link that you need to be aware of, or if there is any choke point within your WAN, your WAN bandwidth, you would like to know what exactly is used on that, bandwidth. So those are the things that assurance can help you with. And again, this is all a single VM, and we can probably go into more details later on. All right, so that's a very basic overview of what Prime Infrastructure is all about. So let me quickly get into the lifecycle management for wired and wireless. So as we were merging the two products, we realized, each product had a different, way of looking at things. So having a life cycle, didn't make sense at that point. How do we normally, deploy things in your network? So if you look at it, you always start with designing. I mean, this is something normally people, do it in their head. For example, if you're deploying a new site or if you're deploying a new campus, you would have definitely thought about, okay, what am I going to be doing on this site? What am I deploying? Am I actually, putting an ASR at my, core router, or am I actually using an ISR G2 at my branch router? What exactly am I doing? And once I deploy it, what are the services that I'll be deploying on that device? So these are the kind of things, you think through it. Maybe not you put it down, but you definitely think through it. And then, you think through what are the type of wireless, deployments I'm going to be using on the other side of the branch, and so on. And so that's where all the designing phase come in. And then once you design it, you want to go about, deploy the things that you have designed. And so these are the main two topics that we'll be covering when we talk about configuration. What can we help you with as far as the configuration goes? Can we design some configuration ahead of time? Can we, do any configuration management in a proactive manner where I can create one template that I can use over and over, and save you my time and thus, giving you a good ROI on the product. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And then once you design something, you can definitely quickly deploy that thing, whether it's a configuration or monitoring. So today we'll focus on, how do you go about deploying the configuration that you have created and so on. Once you have deployed the configuration, then, you would like to monitor how is your configuration doing. And that's exactly what the operate comes in. You would want to monitor your configuration. Is it deployed properly? Are you having any other issues? Any other, kinks in the network that you may not have known before? All of the things that need to be monitored, and that's where the operate comes in. So operate is what we call, a phase where you'll be spending most of your time, during this life cycle. And then we have a report. Obviously, anything you monitor needs to be reported up into your upper management, or even reporting for the sake of history, makes sense. And then we have administration that talks about, how do you care and feed for either the prime infrastructure or things that you need to do on the network side. For example, we would like to back up my configs every night. So things like that are definitely automatic, but if you want to tweak that, maybe that's where the administration can come in. So typically, this is a life cycle that we have for wired and wireless together. And let's now take a look at, a few pieces within this life cycle. So today's discussion is going to be definitely focusing on the configuration management piece. So let's take an overview of, how can Prime Infrastructure really help me with my config management? What are the different areas that we cover within the config management? First and foremost, we do a lot of these things out of the box. For example, backing up your configuration. All the customers that I've talked to, even within the Cisco Live event, when the event is done with, and then we ask our upper management, what would you like to, get, before we, take this product down? And we always get back, can I have a backup of all of my devices that were deployed in my network? And so the configuration backup is a very key thing. And this actually happens automatically as soon as you have the right credentials, with your devices that are managed within the Prime infrastructure. Along with the configuration backup, and again, with the configuration backup, I mean your running configuration, startup configuration, as well as your, configuration of your controllers. The next thing, a lot of people miss out is the configuration or the backing up of the VLAN.dat file. So this is a file that actually holds all of your VLAN information on your switches. And this is something that you definitely want to back up, if you're using your transparent, VTP or something like that. You definitely want to have a VLAN backed up on all of your switches. So those two things are done automatically as soon as you start managing your devices. As far as designing, what can you design? So we can definitely design, templates for wired devices as well as your wireless devices. And I'm going to be talking about configuration templates in more detail. What are the configuration templates? What are they meant for? What can you do with it? And some of the advanced things you can start doing, with the Velocity template language that's built into the Apache, or what we call the VTL. So then we have the designing day 0, day 1 templates. And this is something new that I'll be showing you, in our Prime Infrastructure 2.0, server that I'll be using today. We have an engineering build in our lab, and I'll be showing that as a sneak preview here. And then we can have some of the basic operational changes that you need to do on a day-to-day basis. For example, shutting down the ports, or maybe deploying some quick things on the on the interface, or some quick your basic operational things that needs to be done on a day-to-day basis. And these are the things that usually needs to be done on a on a per device basis, or maybe onesie twosie devices, or maybe a few interfaces at times. So how can we quickly do that using the device work center? And then there may be times where you have to actually deploy or roll out a new technology. For example, either the EnergyWise or maybe the TrustSec or something, that's pretty complex. It takes a while. You don't really just want to have a maintenance window and deploy it. This is something that will take some time for you to analyze. What's your network like? What do you have within your network? Can I really deploy this technology, or not? So these are the things that would require some deep, analysis on your network. So how can Prime Infrastructure help you, getting that through? So these are the topics we'll cover today under the configuration management. So let's get started. But first, I'm sure you guys have heard about configuration templates, and I'm assuming you're all excited about that, just as we are. And so this template really started with Prime LMS, where we used to, push configs in a very different manner. And we soon realized that, these templates cannot be parameterized. I cannot have any variable within the template. And soon enough, we started doing things in a different way, where we actually allowed for, parameters to be used within the template. And then within the Prime infrastructure, we took this template to the whole new level by creating 4 different type of templates, that can really ease your configuration task. The first one is the CLI Templates. This is basically, a tool, that you can use for any configuration task you want. This is very flexible. It's very simple. It's blank. You can, put in whatever you like. You can, put in any CLI you like. And it's very powerful in a way because 2 things. It can take interactive commands. So say, for example, you're enabling SSH on your devices. So if you've done that before, the minute you start typing, enable SSH, you first have to put in the encryption bits, and you have to, answer some few questions, and then you have the certificate generated. So, our templates can be used to answer the question in an interactive manner, and that's the first thing. The second thing is you can have some logic built into this template. So say, for example, you have your business needs where if a device has been situated in a region X, you want to have these 3 things. If they're situated in maybe Asia Pacific, then you want to have some other parameters to be configured on your device. So how do you deal with that? So these are the complex situations that the CLI templates can really make it easier for you. So this way you have one template that can be used for all the devices, regardless whether that device is deployed in Asia Pacific or that device is deployed in America or wherever. So these are the kind of simple things that really make it easier for you to manage your network. So okay, that's good. We like the CLI templates. Now what can you do with it? Maybe I have different needs for CLI templates. So what I like to do is I like to, break down my big task, into multiple small things. So say, for example, I have different templates, one for, enabling my SNMP, one for enabling my logging, one for enabling, my DNS and things like that. So now what I would like to do is group all of these templates together into what we call the composite template. And so now I get the full benefit of having the flexibility and the advanced capability of my CLI template, yet I can push all of these templates into one job, and so I don't have to create 10 different jobs for thousands different devices. So with one device, and again, this is a typical situation where I like to say, let's say you rolled out 10 different campuses, and then you learned out very quickly that these are the 5 things that I need to do all the time when I roll out a new campus. So why not just create a composite template for this 5 different tasks? So this way, rolling out a campus is going to be a very turnkey solution for you. So that's what composite template does. And I'll probably show you, when we get to a demo on how easy it is to quickly, collect few templates, add it to the composite templates, and off you go. All right, so that's good. So there are times, where knowing a technology may not be that easy. For example, someone like me who's very focused on network management would have no clue on what would it take to deploy a DMVPN. How can I make it very easy for customers to deploy DMVPN or maybe some other advanced technologies that may be required to, configure on your devices. So for those, we have what we call the model-based template. So the idea here is that, this is not flexible as CLI, but on the other side, there are things that will ask you right from the GUI that will make it easier for you to deploy a new technology. So those are the model-based templates, and we have some few templates like ACLs or maybe a DMVPN, GetVPN that can really make it easy for you to deploy those technologies. Then there are, fourth level of configuration, which we just started this. We had a concept for this in LMS, but we, leveraged this in the configuration section within the Prime Infrastructure lately. And this is coming out in Prime Infrastructure 2.0. So this would be network services. So this is where, this is a very major type of, technology transition, if you will. For example, you don't have any security. I mean, I don't say not have any security, but you have minimal amount of security, but you would like to, deploy TrustSec. So what would it take to deploy TrustSec in your network? How do you go about figuring out, whether my network is really ready for that? There are four major things that are required. First of all, you have to know whether you have the right hardware or not in order to deploy TrustSec. If you do have the right hardware, do I have the right software on those devices? If you do have that, are your devices capable of handling all the TrustSec, feature sets? Maybe you can use version 1.99 or version 2. Are your devices capable of handling that? And then once you deploy it, how do you go about monitoring, what mode is your TrustSec running, and can you actually change the mode of all the devices? So these are the network, different level of, advancedness, if you will, that you need to deploy from time to time. So hopefully these four different models will, suit you one way or the other to, make it really easy for you to deploy your configurations. But again, all of these starts with a good design. Okay. All right. So now we have another kind of template that we just introduced in 2.0, or will be introducing in 2.0, and this is called the day zero provisioning. The idea is pretty simple. There's a big, pain point when the customers try to roll out new devices. And believe me, we have felt this enough, when deploying new network every year at Cisco Live. We have so many, about 100, 150 devices that we have to roll out. And, it's very painful in configuring or consoling to each and every device, configuring the IP address, and the basic things that need to be on the device. So how can we make that easier? So something like day zero provisioning is really the key to make it easier for you to deploy. And the idea here is that, if you have a brand new device, they already come with, they auto install with it. So if you have a DHCP server and if they can reach to it, you can quickly deploy a new device. And with the profile that you created here, the device can, connect to the Prime Infrastructure via the DHCP and then download the config. It can upgrade itself to a new operating system. So this is how the day zero templates will work. If you have devices that are configured with what used to be the config engine type templates, we can also leverage that. So this is a really good, way of provisioning your new devices. And in fact, in Cisco Live this year in Australia, this is how we rolled out a new network, within Cisco Live. So that was a huge success, and I believe we will definitely, add more and more features on making your day zero provisioning easier for you. And again, the idea is that, why spend so much time at staging when you could be spending more time, when the devices are in the production and being staged in the right way. Okay. So once a device is provisioned, what can you do with it? So once a device is out there, I would like to configure it for more advanced things. Or maybe the new method of, provisioning could be just put the basic information that you need the device to be able to connect to Prime Infrastructure. And once it's up there, then I can, add more things as needed using the Prime Infrastructure as your, your mothership, right? So for example, you can start, deploying the wired features. You can start deploying the wireless features, or you can start deploying these new mobility architectures on your 3850s or 5760s or what have you. You can start creating switch peer groups or maybe created your guest anchor and so on. So a lot of things can be done, and this is a wizard that we will be introducing in 2.0 that allow you to quickly deploy your day one provisioning on your devices as well. And again, for the devices that are not the new mobility architecture, if you still have the classic controllers, you still have the capability of using the classic templates that we have that can be pushed out as well with the Prime infrastructure for bringing up a new controller or maybe a new AP or what have you. So you can still use all of your classic wireless stuff. Okay, so I did talk about making some operational changes. So this is where you'll be spending a lot of your time. So what can you do from here? So from here, you can pretty much do a lot of things. For example, you can turn interfaces on and off. You can, quickly add your devices. You can, there's something called the Device 360 that I'll be demoing you when I take you on a demo on what the device looks like. So we have a lot of these Device 360, and I'll be talking about that, especially in the reference of troubleshooting. It's really handy with the information it provides. You can also access your device configuration archives from here directly. You can see what images are applicable to these devices. You can have an image dashboard. You can have the audits. You can do a lot of things that you need to do, on your day-to-day basis right from here. And that's why it's called the Device Work Center, where, you can really get more mileage out of, your day-to-day activities here. Okay. All right, Dan, I think we are at the polling question.
Okay, let's get to our second polling question. How do you currently make configuration changes in your network? Is it A, manually, we log in and make changes as needed? B, use our in-house scripts to make changes? C, we use non-Cisco solution to make config changes? D, we use either LMS Prime Infrastructure, NCS, to make config changes for our wired or wireless, respectively. Please choose an answer.
So just wanted to clarify, when I say non-Cisco, it could be either, your open source or what have you. So anything, it could be even your in-house script. I talked to a lot of customers, and they do have their in-house tools that they use sometimes. It definitely works, but it's a little hard to maintain, but,
Okay, I think we can continue on.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Okay, so let's move on to our troubleshooting section here. All right, so hopefully this will be a little bit interesting here. So what can we do as far as troubleshooting goes? Can Prime Infrastructure really help me with troubleshooting? And absolutely. Actually, given the convergence of wired and wireless, it really helps you with troubleshooting far better, than having to go to LMS for, figuring out what are my end clients on my wired devices and then going back into the controller and see where it's connected. So obviously there is some disconnect between the two applications, and this is where Prime Infrastructure can really, help in making the transition easier and helping the troubleshooting a lot more easier. So what are the different things that we can, help with troubleshooting? So I'm just listing out a few here. There are a lot more. For example, you can troubleshoot your APs. There are a lot of tools that are available for that. There are tools available for, troubleshooting your clients. What kind of different clients you have, how are they connected, what are the endpoints they're using. And if you integrate with the ICE, which is our Cisco NAC solution, you can even get more information from that. I'll be talking about that once we get there. And then, you have a lot of RF coverage issues that also can be, troubleshot using the different tools that are embedded within the product. And then, it's not mentioned here, but you can also add packet capture. So a lot of customers still rely on packet capture. They want to be able to start capturing packets. And so if you have something like, network analysis module deployed, you can leverage Prime Infrastructure and start triggering packet captures on all of them at the same time if needed. Or this can be done using some threshold-based packet capture. I'll probably demo that, once we get to that. All right, so let's continue with our troubleshooting here. All right, so I did talk about, the concept of Prime 360s. So there are different 360s available, within the Prime infrastructure. So what exactly is 360? So think about that. You're working on a particular device, or either a switch, router, or controllers, or APs, or even an end user or end client that you're trying to troubleshoot. I would like to get as much information as possible, from the Prime infrastructure that will help me quickly troubleshoot the problem. So that's really the idea behind the 360. So with the AP 360 or the controller, you can see a lot of different things that can, quickly help you. First of all, what version of software am I running on this? Is it really consistent with the other controllers that I've deployed? Is it because of this version of the application or the controller that I'm seeing this issue? How many active APs do I have connected to this controller? How many active clients do I have, that are being registered to this controller via the AP? Am I having any CPU or memory type of, implications? Am I seeing a high CPU or memory? Things like that. And then we have, the alarms that you can quickly, sift out, particularly on this particular controller or access points. Or you can see all the wireless, interfaces on this controller as well. The other cool thing is you can see the WLAN, what kind of WLAN is serviced by this particular AP or controller. So you can see a lot of information, just by hovering over this controller and getting this, what we call the device 360. And again, this can be applicable for the routers, switches, including the new routers and switches, the unified access, controllers, APs, and what have you. The other nice thing about that is apart from viewing just information, you can actually take actions on it. You can see at the top right that we have all the icons here, like a headphone or a headset or maybe a chat. So if you say, for example, you were trying to troubleshoot an issue on the controller, and then after doing a lot of troubleshooting, you still are not able to get anywhere. Who is your lifeline? Where can you go to? So for those kind of things, you can definitely count on, Cisco support communities, where a lot of other customers like you, maybe hitting the same issues, or maybe they are, one step ahead than you in figuring out, what's going on. So maybe what if you can tap into that information right when you're, working on it? So that's where the community support comes in. And if you click on that chat icon, it can actually, start searching the content, on the Cisco support forums, and then, you can really tap into that. So even after doing that, you're not able to get anywhere, you can still open a tag case and then, start logging an issue with a Cisco tag directly right from within the application. So this is pretty powerful, and it provides an end-to-end troubleshooting, when starting from what the issue is all the way up to how do you get to resolve it. Okay. There are obviously some other tools that can help you, like ping, traceroute. That's pretty trivial, but you can also have that. And then you have the second icon that really, takes you into the troubleshooting workflow, and I'll probably talk to you about that in a minute, where you can, use Prime infrastructure to do a workflow type troubleshooting, where you can say, okay, what are the 4 things that need to happen in order for the AP to be connected to the network? Are these 4 things happening? And so on. Or same thing with the client, same thing with the controllers and APs. Okay. All right. So say, for example, you are trying to troubleshoot an AP that, keeps flip-flopping between the 2 controllers, and as a result, it's probably unjoined at times. Now, how can you troubleshoot things like that? Why is it not joining? So for those, there's a troubleshooting wizard that can help you with figuring out, why is my AP not joining? Is my switch port discovered? Is the AP getting an IP address? And then is it actually joining? So where exactly is it broken? And there are a lot of logs that are available for you that you can consolidate from different controllers and can be presented to you in a manner that really helps you with this. Okay. So we do have what we call the real-time troubleshooting for unjoined APs and a lot of other things as well within the product. So I did mention about log consolidation. So this was a big pain point for a lot of customers. If you had like few controllers in your network, and if you had a client that was jumping over different controllers, how can you get all the logs from for this particular client from a different controllers? And this is where the log consolidation comes in. When you get to the AP troubleshooting. So this is a very cool way of troubleshooting, and you can quickly get all the information for a particular client or a particular AP right from within the controller. And again, you don't have to go into the CLI or grep or any of these. All of these is right from the GUI from this one place. All right. So some of the key KPIs for AP app. What are the things that you should be monitoring? For example, how many errors do you get in a radio for a particular AP, or maybe what are the successful associations on a given AP, or maybe are there any other unsuccessful associations of a particular users for each AP, or the RSSI or signal strength or what have you. So these are all the key statistics that you would like to see when you're troubleshooting on a particular AP. And again, all of these is presented to you in a way that you can go back in history and check if needed. So this is really powerful, and it really helps you with your troubleshooting as well. The other thing you can do is, at times if you have thousands of APs, how do you get to the AP you're looking for? So there's a way you can globally search, right from within the right corner of your Prime Infrastructure. I did see in the earlier poll that a lot of you people are actually using Prime Infrastructure. So you should be able to search from that on the global right corner, and then you can directly tap into the AP information. Okay, and then once you get to this, you can enable your troubleshooting or different things that you can. And then we have the capability of searching the APs, right from within the floor. So let's say even within the floor, if you have multiple APs, you can still use your map, and you can do the search for different APs. So this is a pretty comprehensive search, and you can search by the MAC address or IP or name or maybe any element within the map. So it really makes it easier to find that AP. All right, so these are the tools that can be used for troubleshooting the APs. Now, what about the coverage issues? What can you do with those? What are the tools that we have that can help you? The first and foremost that comes to mind, obviously, is the heat maps. Heat maps are really great. You have various layers of heat maps. If you look at on the left side, you can turn on these layers to get more relevant information. So, for example, if you're seeing any rogue clients in your network, if you're getting the alarm saying that you have a rogue AP or something, how can you figure out where that AP is located? So you go back into your heat maps, and then you can figure out, you can turn on the rogue clients, and you can actually see them right here on the map. And then you can click on it, and you can get more information, or maybe you can see some of the other information as well. So, for example, what are my active rogue clients? Or, are there any critical alarms that I need to be aware of for a particular AP or whatnot? So there are a lot of different things that you can see and you can turn on this map itself. So this is pretty powerful. Again, remember that this is a layered map, so the more things you will turn on, the more time it takes to refresh, but you still get the information. All right. So if you have a cluster, and then you can quickly, visualize the rogues in that particular area. So you can, simply click on that, and you can see the actual number of rogue APs in this area. Okay. So this is pretty powerful. All right. Then the most interesting, I guess, especially if you are trying to, get your hands on the BYOD, bring your own device. This is a pretty hard thing lately. People with a lot of iPhones, iPads, Android phones, the Blackberries or whatnot. I mean, how do you keep track of, how should your policy be? There are a lot of consideration. Just one slide on that for the folks that are actually looking into that. What can you do for different OSs? How do you get started? So one of the key things, Prime Infrastructure is one of the core components, if you are actually thinking about implementing BYOD. And Prime integrated with the ICE really is like icing on the cake. You can actually profile your devices. You can profile, what kind of device you have and what should it be doing. and where should it be redirecting if that device logs onto the network. So all of these things can be, very nicely managed using the Prime infrastructure as well as the ICE, which is your Cisco's NAC solution. Stands for Identity Service Engine. All right. So Cisco has a solution also where if you have a certification that only needs to be installed one time, even if this is a guest access. So once you get the certificate, the users can be redirected, into a different part of your network depending on who's logging on or what device they're coming in from. Okay. Or if you have a device that is lost, what can you do with it? What should you do with it? Or for those devices, can you report on it? Can you block the device access and so on? So a lot of these things can really help, if you have the ICE integrated with the Prime. So what really does it tell you? So if you go to the users and end user page, you will see a section specifically where the information is coming from the ICE. For example, if I have a user, I can quickly tell if it's a wired user or a wireless user. It can provide more information. For example, which device is it connected to or which AP is it connected to? What's my protocol running on it? Which interface it's connected to? This is very interesting for a lot of customers, especially on the wired side. But more interesting is, what kind of policy am I giving to this user? So this is really helpful. For example, if, a Jack calls in saying, hey, I'm having issues with not able to connect to my intranet, is he getting the wrong policy? How do you know? What would it take for you to figure that out? So the integration of Prime infrastructure with the ICE can really make it very seamless for you and very easy for you to figure out what posture are they getting, what policy are they getting, or what maybe authorization profile are they getting. And if you have multiple ICE, you can even say, which ICE is it connecting to. So this is really easy, way of figuring out when the user actually has a problem. So when you start, deploying the BYOD, solution, make sure you know how do you, how would you go about troubleshooting this as one of the steps, in prepping yourself for BYOD. Right. So I did touch on client troubleshooting a bit. So ICE is one way of troubleshooting, when it comes to the security. But what if the client himself or herself is actually, running into an issue where they're not able to connect to the network? How would you help that client? So for that, we have a workflow that can be used right from within the end users, where you can look, you can click on the client and you can click on Troubleshoot, and it lands you directly where you say, okay, is this client associated? Do I have him authenticated? Does he get any IP address? Maybe sometimes the DHCP pool is all full and you don't get any IP address, or maybe some other things may be happening. So do I have him, where is the broken link here? And some of these connectivity checks would be really useful. And from here, sometimes you would get the recommendation on, depending on where you're stuck here, on what are the things you can check on. So since this is all successful, I don't have any recommendation, but you would get some recommendation right here in the section called recommendation. On the right side, you can see some of the tools that can be used. For example, if I see there's an issue with the authentication, I can quickly, click on my ICE tab here, which is a blue dot here on the right side. And I can see, are there any logs for this particular client that I can leverage and figure out, why is he failing on the authentication and so on. So this is pretty powerful. It gives you all the information in one page, and then you can, fork off from here. All right, so more information about client troubleshooting. I think I talked about it. So for example, if you do get stuck on one of the steps, where can you get more debug analysis logs? For example, your DHCP messages or your AAA messages, or your authentication or initiation or whatever. Where are all the messages, and where can you go about, downloading them? So with Prime infrastructure, you don't really have to go anywhere to get it. It taps into any of these resources like your ICE or maybe your controllers, and it gets a log directly from those devices. So it really helps you continue with your debugging rather than having to, leave your space and, go in, telnet to maybe your controller, grep for things and come back. So it saves you from all those hassles, and everything is right in one place. Right. So at times, there may be need of, figuring out where is the customer or where is the end client actually having the user. So having some sort of visual really helps. So rather than, reading the logs and figuring out, okay, which is this AP? Now, where is this AP located? Okay, so the user tried to get connected on this AP, and then when he went to the other AP, he had problem. So reading all of these from the log is quite cumbersome, and you can't really visualize what's going on. So at this times, if you had integration with MSC or the mobile service, mobility service engine, you can quickly figure out where the client is going or roaming, and you can click on play, and you can actually simulate, where the client is, where the client was, and where is it trying to go, and then you can quickly figure out, what may be the issue. The nice thing is that you can actually see the floor, you can actually see the map, and you can see the client moving in that map. So it's pretty visual when it comes to troubleshooting. All right. So I'm gonna stop my slides here for a minute and then go into the demo here. Chris, were there any questions you would like to bring up, or should we leave it for the last? Okay. I'm just gonna go into the demo here. So before I go here, let me quickly share my screen. Okay. So if you guys can see my screen. All right. So this is Prime Infrastructure 2.0. It's one of the engineering builds here. It's not released yet. It will be coming out this summer. What I would like to specifically bring out are some of the enhancements that we have made in the configuration as well as in the troubleshooting section for managing your wired and wireless infrastructure. So let's, as I mentioned, there was this lifecycle view here, the design, deploy, operate that we talked about. So within the design, I'll be spending more time here, talking about, how do you configure or how do you design your configuration templates. So under the feature design is where all the magic happens. So this is where you can find your CLI templates. This is where you can find your composite templates, as well as some of the advanced templates that can be used as for the model-based templates. So let's start with, a very basic, CLI template. So as I mentioned, CLI template is a blank template. You can make it whatever you like out of it. This could be something that you have to do over and over. Now, one of the things a lot of customers, like about this is, if you have a CCI type person, you can get the configuration generated. Then you can paste the configuration here, and then you can, convert those values into a variable. And so now if someone in the operation is deploying it, they don't have to know about the CLIs. They can just click on the form view, and then you can know exactly what are the things you need for this template to be successful, and fill those in, and then off you go. Okay. So say for example, I'm going to start with a very lame example here, but let's say I'm trying to turn on the SNMP's community string, being the network management guy that I am. I'm going to start configuring my. Okay, and then I copy that, and I'll make the read write. Okay, and then let's say SNMP. Okay. Pardon me if my CLIs don't match up. Okay, and then say you need to also turn on some of the logging stuff. So let's say this is going to be my management template. So anytime I want to enable management on my devices, I will use something like this, right? So as you can see, these two values are same here. So, I don't need two different variables, but I do need a variable here for my public strings. What I can do is quickly highlight this, and then I can convert this into my variable. So once I select this and click on it, it will automatically be captured on that, and I can quickly go into the edit here. Then I can say, this is my SNMP read-only, and this is my string. I do have other options, besides the string. For example, it could be an integer, it could be an IPv4 address. It could be a drop-down. So I did mention about your business use cases. So if you have, let's say you are deploying a template with different regions, this is a good use case for using a drop-down. Or if you need a checkbox, you can do that. You can also use a radio button if you have to, or a text area. So depending on what your use case, you can use create templates with different things. For now, I'm just going to stick to my SNMP read-only. Now this is my display label. So this is what your operator will be seeing when they deploy it. So here, make it as verbose as you can. So for example, I can say enter SNMP read-only. Okay, and then you can skip this if you like, and then I'll make this required, and I can say save. Now, once I click on add, you will see that my public got replaced with my variable. So this is pretty powerful. So now if I click on the form view, I can actually see the string. But I'll wait, before I finish this, so I can quickly go do the same thing for my private string here, and say, okay, this is my private string, and then this is my SNMP read write. And this is going to be enter SNMP read write. Okay, and I'll make this mandatory, and I'll save it and say add. And then here, this is my SNMP host or management host. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm saying management host or management server. And this is going to be my IPv4 address. And this is a enter, let's say prime server IP or something like that. And then I can say true and say save. Okay. So as you can see, this here, so what I can do here is I can delete this and I can click on add here and I can add the same string here, or I can even copy and paste it here. So if I create one variable that can be used over and over within the template, there are ways that I'll show you in a minute where you can actually use some advanced mechanism. I mentioned that you can use interactive commands. There's a way of doing that. There's a way of, making a logical statements, within the templates. So there's a lot of advanced way of, turning your scripts, directly into your templates. Now, once you do this, the next thing is if you click on the form view, you can quickly see that, how easy it is to convert a template into a form view. So if I'm an operator and if I'm deploying the template, I don't know the SNMP CLIs. I don't need and I don't care. As long as I enter my public and private and my host IP, I'm good to go. So once you save this, for example, enter some more variables here. For example, this is my metadata. So this is my management template, and enable management, and I can put in my tags, for example, SNMP or management or whatever tags you need. And there's a way you can look at CLI using my tags. So having tags for all of your templates will be really helpful. Now this is where you can actually close this template or limit this template to specific devices. So for example, if I want this template to be only applied to my switches and routers, I can do that. I can then click on OK. And then if you want, you can additionally, lock it down by, saying this can only be deployed to 12.x or 15.x or what have you. So you can do all that. So once I do this, I can save it. And, I can save this as my management template, or let's call it my management. Okay, we'll save this. All right, and then you have a choice of where you want to save it. You can even create subdirectories if you like, or if you don't have that, you can simply save under my template, and it'll show up here. Now, once you create a template and once you save it, you now have the ability to publish the template. And once you publish the templates, this is where other users can see your template and they can start deploying it. Okay, so it's good to publish it, so we can go ahead and publish it. Or if you are the only one going to be deploying it, you can even go here and start deploying it. So in this case, I'll be deploying it, so I won't need to publish it. I'll just go ahead and deploy it when we talk about deploying it. So this is one type of template. Now you can really, go crazy with the logic and all this stuff. So for example, let me show you some other things here. So for example, if you look at the discovered templates, let me see system templates. Okay. If you look into a lot of other things here, trying to find the right template here. So let's say you were turning on the NetFlow. You can use this template, or I'm trying to show you some of the advanced use cases where you can have more, say for example, EEM, I believe that. So you can see that how you can have more, advanced form of templates. You can use your if and then statements, and then you can really make it as complex as you like. So this is for, enabling your EEM variables. You can even use the interactive commands if you like. So this is an example where you can use an interactive. So if I use a copy TFTP, maybe Flash, then I'm bound to get a lot of interactive questions. So at that time, what can I do within my template to help me? So this is where you can put in your file name. You can push your file name when it asks you for this question. So this is a way of creating interactive commands right within the template. So those two things really make it powerful and really usable for most of your configuration tasks. So again, you can make this interactive, and you can use logic within this templates. So it makes it really, really powerful. And if you look at it from the form view, it's really simple. For example, to someone who is deploying it, they just need to choose, and they can choose some few variables here. Do I want to register an applet? Do I not want to register? Can I create a new directory? Put in the directory name and all these things, and I'm good to go. So, making a nice or designing a nice template always will save you time, going forward. And I did see that a lot of you are still using, in-house scripting or maybe manual configuration. So using something like this will really help you with, making your configuration more consistent, and, you won't become a bottleneck, when it comes down to deploying your, or pushing configurations. You can, design a template and have someone else, push it for you. Okay. So that's about designing the CLI templates. Again, if you have any questions on the CLI templates, go for it, and put it down on the chat, and either Chris or myself can really answer that. Okay. Once you create the CLI templates, you can then start bundling them up. So, I like to think things more of a modular way. For example, I would create different sections of my templates, one for pushing out the NTP server, or one for pushing out my SNMP or all management, one for maybe, turning on my AAA, and one for my, so depending on which region I'm deploying to, my configurations would change. And depending on which branch or campus I'm bringing up, my set of things that I have to do for that, branch or campus may change. So let's say this is for my new campus. So I can create a new composite templates for my new campus here. And what I can do is I can put in my tags here saying this is new, this is campus, and so on. And then I can choose my device type, or I can, start adding my templates. So what I'm doing here is I can start, enabling my management, manage my management template. And then I can pick one from my, access here. So let's say I pick all this. So even though I picked 4 of them, you can see that it only selected, it actually warned me that, these templates are not all applicable to the same device types. So you will not be able to combine them. So it does have the intelligence of knowing, which template is conflicting. And once I remove those conflicts, it'll start adding your templates here, into your composite templates. So this actually will allow you to, not shoot yourself on the foot, and, it'll save you from that. So this is how you create the composite template. And you can, one of the trick is, you can put all the variables maybe in your first template, and your following templates can start using the same variables. So this is a really good way of, creating one big template and then start leveraging your variables, going down. Okay. So this is composite templates. So other than that, I think it behaves exactly like your CLI templates. Then the third type of template that I was talking about is a little bit more advanced template, and that would be what we call a model-based template. So the idea is that, say for example, I talked about DMVPN template. I wanted to deploy my DMVPN, but again, as coming from the network management, let's say I'm clueless on the DMVPN. What exactly is it? Where does it need to be deployed? I can simply fill out all this information, and it'll generate a DMVPN template for me. So it seems like I need to have a hub and a spoke. So if I have a hub, you can see my whole config or my whole GUI actually changes. So depending on what I select, the system will ask me to put different things on what I'm selecting. So for spokes, I don't really need to specify a lot of different things, and I can, pick and choose my, IC authentication, my encryption type, and once I keep on answering this question, I should be good to go. So that's so the model-based templates are not flexible. They are fixed in a way, but within that technology, they are flexible. For example, whether to put a hub or spoke is flexible. And the same thing can be done with any of these, different advanced technologies you have to deploy. All right, so that's your model-based template. Now with Prime Infrastructure 2.0, we are introducing something new. It's called the network, services. And the idea here is that, you are trying to deploy a new services, and with this one, we just have the feature set for TrustSec. So for example, what does it really take to, enable TrustSec in your network? So these are the 5 things you have to do in order to enable it. You can click on here and you can read more about it, and then you can go into the readiness assessment in order to skip some of these. So for example, I can quickly say, which of my devices are TrustSec, hardware capable, which of my devices are software capable. Have I enabled TrustSec on any of my devices, or maybe, and so on. So I can, click on any of these and I can see the relevant devices that fall into that piece of pie. And then once I'm done with this, I can go into my templates and I can then go ahead and deploy my TrustSec. So for example, this is my new TrustSec deployment. And then you can choose your device types. And again, depending on how you want to deploy this. For example, I may start out with monitoring mode to see what's going on within my network. And once I deploy this, I would like to then change it so that I can come here and, put this on the low impact mode. And then you can see how it's asking for the ACL. And again, anytime I have a question, I can click on these, helpers, and I can quickly figure out what needs to be happening here. Why is it needed? What's the importance of it? And so on. And again, once you enable all of these, you can, save that as a new template, and then you can go ahead and deploy it. So these are the 4 different type of templates that you can, use or leverage Prime Infrastructure for. So again, the basic template type was the CLI template. You can quickly create, any template you like, starting from scratch. Then you can build on that, and then you can combine those templates, and you can make them into a composite template. And then once you, so that you can, deploy bigger things all in one push. Then you can have your advanced templates based on the security or controllers or what have you. And again, for the folks who are on the wireless side, there's a whole bunch of templates here right within the controllers. So all of the templates you were used to find in the classic view can now be found under the controller section, and all the templates are right here. Then we can, have more advanced or model-based templates right here. And then the last one is the network services, which allow you to enable more like a, technology transition, or maybe a little bit more advanced technologies that you have to deploy, which would need more research on your part, whether your network would be able to accept that or not. So that can be found under the network services. So that's what I had on the configuration design. So once you design your template, you can quickly, deploy your template. So for example, I created my my management template. So let's say if I wanted to deploy this, I can quickly come here and I can click on deploy because I'm the only one using it. I can quickly do that. If you have, other folks in your team that need to be using it, then, I would suggest go ahead and publish it and then let everyone deploy it. Now I can, select all the devices. Now because I choose, a few, devices that would apply this or are eligible for this template, like the routers and switches, even though I have a lot of devices in my network, it'll only pick those devices that are applicable for this template. And then again, I can pick, my SNMP string, for example, public, private. Not that I'm recommending this here. You can put all that, and I can apply. You can see that this will apply for all the devices. Now, say for some reason, if I don't want this to be applied to all the devices, I can leave it like that. I can delete this, and I can still apply it. And then I can go into each device, and I can, change this. For example, right here, I can go ahead and change it, and then apply it again. And then if I click on CLI preview, it will generate the CLI that needs to be pushed out on this particular device. Alternatively, what you can also do is, if you have thousands of devices, going this method may take a long time. I would rather export this in a CSV file, and I can, make changes there and then import it back. So once I export it, it'll, give me a column with all my device names, and all the variables will be listed in each of the columns. I can fill that out, and I can import it back as a CSV file, and it'll automatically, populate and merge with the device that I have here. So this is really powerful way of, pushing out changes to your devices, pushing out configuration. And again, you can generate unique configuration for each device, even though you may have different values that needs to be configured on each device. And that's really, the power for this configuration templates. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and cancel that. All right. So that's what I had for the configuration in general. So let's quickly shift gears and go into the troubleshooting. So what can we do for troubleshooting? So you definitely have, more things here. All the basic things are there. For example, your network device summary, your, what your network comprises of, your Pareto, your top-end CPU, top-end memory, client count association. All that is pretty trivial. You want to go beyond that. For example, how do you know, what kind of rogue APs do you have? All of that can be quickly seen here from right within the security tab. I can click on any of these, and I can see which of my are, unclassified rogue, friendly rogue, and so on. I can also look at the clean air, and I can get some information about my RF quality, around it. For example, what is my, air quality on, AN or ABGN or and so on. Okay, so all that is pretty trivial. I can look at the client. I can quickly, put an IP address of my Mac client, and I can go into the troubleshooting, and it'll take me to the client troubleshooting right there. Now, this is something that was introduced, in I think after 1.2 here, where you can quickly see your top-end SSIDs by client count. So this is pretty nice. I can also see my top-end switch, that are associated or that are carrying more clients. So I know if I have a downtime, which switch, or if I'm deploying something new, I can see how can I deploy something where I can impact, least of my clients. So for those kind of things, you can literally use this, a top 5 switch by client count, okay? And so on. So this is really nice, but we have more advanced stuff that can be used. So for example, I mentioned something about the unjoined APs, right? You have a whole section of, or this is your whole operational toolkit. You can use different tools within this here. For example, I can go here and I can do a lot of different kind of diagnostics. For example, you can go into the radio RRM, radio resource management. You can actually see a lot more statistics. You can see, if any of your APs are changing any channels, and if so, why are they changing channels? You can click on the number 7 here, and it says I got 7 channel changes on this particular AP. And then once you click on that, you can actually, see what's happening here. Or I guess not. Let's see. Okay. I guess I did mention it was engineering build. Okay. The other thing is you could do is you can actually have, a debug completely on the unjoined APs. So for example, if I go into my unjoined APs, and if I have any unjoined APs, I can now have the ability to troubleshoot this. So I can quickly go ahead and troubleshoot this, and I can see my logs directly, from my controller. So I think this is a very mocked up case here, but I can actually see, how far have you gotten, and I can see my logs right here. Okay, so I can, This is very cool because if I can have different controllers, I can see if the same AP is being associated with different controller, and I can, check on that. I can also look at the real-time troubleshooting, and then I can run this, and I can start getting, logs on this particular MAC address real-time, and that's why it's called RTTS, real-time troubleshooting. And I can, see this MAC, real-time while I'm running it. So right here, I can see this, and I can stop on it, and I can, see more information on the specific MAC. So this is really cool. You can choose different controllers if you have to, and then you can see I want logs specifically from this controller or so on. Okay, so as you can see, you can do the same kind of analysis even on the unified access switches that can now be turned into a controller. So that's also available right here. But this is kind of the information you can get from, troubleshooting. So this is pretty powerful. The other thing you can do is, if you want to go beyond that, you can actually start doing a lot of packet captures, okay? For example, one of the nicest thing about this is I can, initiate the packet captures from right here. So if you guys have heard of NAM or the Network Analysis Module, this is an appliance from Cisco that allows you to quickly, do the more about the performance, metrics or, and that can be deployed in multiple form factors. So if you have one of these deployed, now Prime Infrastructure can behave as a manager for those particular NAMs. And then what you can do with this is really amazing. For example, I can go ahead and create my session on what kind of packets do I want to capture. I can, give it a name, and then I can add filters on, what kind of traffic am I interested in. I can, say, for example, this is my Yahoo Messenger or something like that. And then I can, say this in both direction, and then this is my IP, and I can choose on the application. And it can actually understand Yahoo, traffic as well. So you can, pick a lot of these applications here as well. Let's see here. Or you can, pick this on the VLAN if you like. But the idea is that once you create the profile, you can actually start capturing traffic directly on that without having to define the profile every time. So, for example, let me show you what would it look like when you do that. Okay, so if I go into the packet capture, I can show you some of the packet captures that we have in past. And let's see if Jerry captured this one here. So this is, I can go ahead and, once I capture the packet, I can actually start decoding my packet right here without having to, I can export this to, my laptop and decode it there, but I do have the ability to, pick the amount of packets that I would like. And then, based on that, I can select, what kind of decode do I want. If I'm, trying to decipher a telnet session or something that has a TCP stream, I can even, go right into the TCP stream and so on. So for here, for example, if this is a packet that I'm interested in, I can click on it. I can quickly, decode down to the ASCIIs, of the packet, and then I can actually see, what's coming down the wire. So this is pretty useful, and it's very handy actually having this kind of or this level of granularity right within the application. So this is really, where you need to be spending your efforts to quickly start, troubleshooting, even if you have to start, capture packets and so on. One of the other coolest thing that we can do is, in the designing, while you're designing, this is not something we covered, but just thought about it. There is a way you can configure a threshold. So the idea is that, I want to create a threshold so that if my application response time, goes above a certain number, I would like to start, capturing my packets. So say you have a mission critical application, and if it goes beyond a certain time, then, you want to automatically start, doing a packet capture. So for that, how can you proactively do something like that? So if I go into the edit threshold settings, I can define saying, it's okay that I get the alert from this. And again, it needs to be a major alert. But at the same time, start doing a packet capture. And here, if I have defined the profile, I can quickly pick my profile right here, and I can do a packet capture. So this is pretty powerful. It'll save you a lot of time. And then again, the good thing is that even if you're not present, it'll start capturing the packet based on the threshold. And then you can keep this into a rolling buffer. So, you don't have to worry about, taking a whole bunch of space, and then you can stop it, when you come back.
Sorry, Tejas,
Yeah.
This is all great stuff, but we're running a little short on time. We want to make sure we get in some Q&A time for the attendees.
Perfect.
Okay.
So I'm almost done here. Let me see if I missed out on any of the other stuff. I think we are almost there, actually. Good timing. Okay. I think I pretty much covered what I had. So, yeah, I think we can go into Q&A.
Okay, sounds good. Can you quit out of the sharing so we can move back to slides?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, let's get our last polling question in. Well, what tools do you use for infrastructure troubleshooting? Is it A, ping traceroute all the time? B, we just log onto the device and troubleshoot most of the time? C, we do packet capture if all else fails? D, we use special appliances or applications to help us with network troubleshooting? E, we either use LMS Prime Infrastructure, NCS, for troubleshooting wired and wireless, respectively. Okay, let's get to some of our questions from our audience. We do have a good number of them.
Great.
Okay, first question here. Will Prime be able to archive configurations for wireless LAN controllers? I'd like to be able to view the configs and archive copies of old configs.
Yes, so that's a great question. So we know this feature was a little broken, I think, in 1.2 timeframe, and this is something that we are definitely addressing in 2.0 timeframe. That's a great question.
Okay. We're going to move quickly here. So it looks like we have another one around wireless LAN controllers. If we upgrade Prime to version 1.3 from 1.2, will I have to upgrade the code on the wireless LAN controllers to a specific version as well?
Yes, I believe the Prime infrastructure moves with the LAN controllers itself. I mean, it's not that you have to upgrade, but if it's really meant for people who would like to, move to the 7.3, I believe, or 7.2. If you want to leverage more features of that, then you would have to use Prime Infrastructure 1.3. So it's more of not about moving from 1.2 to 1.3. It's more about, do you really want to move your controllers from 7.2 to something else? If so, then yes, you would need Prime Infrastructure 1.3.
Okay. We also had a question on Prime 2.0. Could you just reiterate what the expected release date for that is?
Prime Infrastructure 1.3 is already released. Prime Infrastructure 2.0 that's coming out this summer.
This summer, great. Okay. Another question, can you easily use Prime to troubleshoot code channel interference problems in the 802.11g spectrum?
That is something I would definitely have to get back to you on. That's a great question, and I will be actually on the Ask the Expert session for another week. Is that correct, Dan? So this,
I believe it's 2 weeks in the Cisco support community. Yeah.
So I believe this would be a great question for that. I would definitely like to give you a thorough answer on that.
Excellent. Okay. What is the default time delta for Prime Infrastructure to update its data?
Okay, that's a very vague question, but let me try to answer. So it depends on what type of data you're talking about. Are we talking about the data we pull to the devices? If that's the monitoring data, then that can be controlled via the templates, and then you can define as low as 1 minute on how often do you want to pull the the devices. If you're talking about the config archive, then that also can be controlled on how often do you want to archive all the configurations and so on. So again, this depends on what specific things we are asking about. But I'm sure it can be tweaked.
Okay. Sounds like another good question for the Ask the Expert as well. Okay.
Yep.
And then another question here. Is there any integration with ACS instead of ICE?
Yes. So there is an integration with ACS as well as, so we do support TACX Plus and Radius, and we are planning on enhancing that in the 2.0 as well.
Okay. Can Prime NCS allow us to detect wireless LAN performance issues? If so, how can we look into this?
So are we talking about performance based on the traffic type, or are we talking about performance on the bandwidth of the link? If that's the case, there are definitely ways of doing this as we are monitoring the links on the switches. So if we know the port that's connected to the controller, or if you're just talking about within the wireless framework, that's a great question. Would you mind elaborating this question in the Ask the Expert session? I think I can definitely follow up on that. I think that's a great question.
Okay. Here's another question on logs. When Prime analyzes logs, is it looking at device's native log, or is Prime configured as a syslog server?
So Prime can be configured as syslog server. It can also be configured as a trap receiver. All the events can go to the Prime. And the log that I showed you on the real-time troubleshooting were actually sifted or grepped with the client MAC address that we can get from various controllers.
Okay. Is there a template to shut down the radios of any new APs joining a controller for the first time? This is to avoid new and unconfigured APs to propagate the controller's SSID.
That's a great question. I'm not sure if we can do that. I would definitely like to answer that, but give you the right answer. So I would defer that to the Ask the Expert session.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great question for sure. Okay, here's another question. Will the upgrade from 1.3 to 2.0 be a direct upgrade, or do you expect intermediate steps in between them?
Good question. It will be a direct upgrade.
Okay. Okay, I have another question on APs. What determines a malicious rogue AP?
I think there is a definition on that. That's a good question. I can look it up for that. So you're trying to differentiate between the friendly APs and friendly rogues and the malicious rogue. Is that correct?
It's a short question, but
right.
It sounds like.
I'm sure there's a definition. I'm sure there's a definition somewhere. I'm not sure if I know it off the top of my head, but we can definitely get back to you on that.
Okay. Okay. Can Cisco Prime use Wireshark output from, for example, a Nexus as a troubleshooting tool?
So if the question is whether or not we can, download the PCAP, yes. So when we do a packet capture using the NAMs, we will output a PCAP that can be leveraged, using a Wireshark. Now, are you talking about the Wireshark features on the Nexuses? We haven't integrated that yet, but that's something on the roadmap.
Okay, I have a question on the logs. Can you better explain what exactly the AP troubleshooting logs are?
I believe these are the logs that we get from the controllers. So we consolidate all the logs from the controller and bring it to you within one place. And that's because if, for example, if the AP is flip-flopping between two controllers and not being able to join for some reason, how do you troubleshoot that? How do you know which other controller it's talking to? So that's where we can, query all the controllers, and then we can consolidate the log and give it to you.
Okay. Question, where can I find the PA troubleshooting panel in Prime Infrastructure version 1.3 with Lifecycle Them enable?
What was the question again? Where can I find what?
Looking for the PA troubleshooting panel.
PA troubleshooting panel.
Maybe he meant to say AP.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Good. There you go. So that would be under the operate. If you go into Lifecycle, it would be under the operate, and then it would be under the operational tools, and there's a section in there called the wireless. And then you should be able to find all the troubleshooting, tools for wireless right there.
Okay. Does Prime have support for video endpoints? If so, does it support models that are also non-Cisco?
Yeah, so we have a whole other suite of product, the Prime Collaboration, that can be used to manage the video endpoints. What we can do as far as the video goes is we can, run a media trace, for example, between the two devices where the video endpoints are connected and, give you the media trace and so on. But we do not manage the video endpoints directly.
Okay. Okay, here's a question. This question was mentioned earlier but not answered. You spoke about deploying new equipment. Can CPI also be used to migrate a configuration from an end-of-life device to a new device? For example, from a PIX to a more robust firewall?
For that, first of all, I would have to know, whether the new device is supported in the Prime infrastructure as far as the configuration goes. If it is, yes, it should be possible to migrate the config. I mean, I don't think there's any wizard for doing that. It would have to be manual, but I'm sure the config can be pushed. Again, for this to happen, the configuration support needs to be present for both the devices.
Okay. We have a question. Can we use this to monitor routing protocols?
One of the cool thing about Prime infrastructure is, if there's something that you're looking for that you need to monitor and it's not available out of the box, we always have the custom SNMP templates that can be created. And for example, if you have an OSPF MIB or if you need to monitor something on the OSPF neighbors or what have you, adjacencies, you can actually query that MIB and you can create that into a dashlet. And so you do have a ability of doing that, although not out of the box, but you can definitely do that.
Okay, another question here. Do you have to have context-aware licensing on your MSE to allow rogues and clients to be placed on maps?
I believe location licenses will be needed for the MSEs, yes, because we will be placing them on the map. But again, I'm not a wireless expert here. I can definitely check back with you. Would you mind posting that on the Ask the Expert session?
Sounds good. Okay, and we are very close to out of time, so I'm just going to run through last couple of housekeeping slides and, of course, answer our trivia question. What does one of the world's oldest airlines and Cisco Prime Infrastructure have in common? Please take a moment to guess your answer. In the meantime, we always do appreciate your feedback. We will be entering everyone who does fill out their evaluation in a raffle for a $50 Amazon gift card. So please do fill out your evaluation, which will pop at the close of the webinar. And as we mentioned, if your question didn't get answered or you'd like follow-up on a little bit more detail, Tejas will be answering questions from April 2nd to April 12th within the Cisco support community. As well, this entire session will be available on demand within the next 5 business days. The Q&A will also be available. Please join us for our next Expert Series webcast in English. The topic will be Automating Cisco iOS Software Vulnerability Assessment. That'll be on Tuesday, April 23rd at 7 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. New York time. We also have a Spanish webcast coming up on Cisco UCS, A Day in the Life of an IP Packet. That'll be on Tuesday, April 9th at 9 a.m. local Mexico City time. We also have a Portuguese webcast coming up. The topic will be Multicast VPN Fundamentals, Configuration, and Troubleshooting. That'll be on Tuesday, April 16th. And we do have 2 English Ask the Expert events going on right now in the support community. One on AnyConnect Secure Mobility, and a second, Server I/O, Unleashing the Potential of the UCS Cisco Virtual Interface Card. We have 2 upcoming Ask the Expert events, Configuring, Troubleshooting, and Monitoring Wireless Networks Using Security Policies, as well as Automating Cisco iOS Software Vulnerability Assessment. We also have 2 more ongoing Ask the Expert events, Cisco ASR 1000 series, and then a second one in Spanish, Gateway GPRS support notes. We do have 2 additional upcoming sessions in CiscoLive365.com. First, on April 17th, Activate with Cisco Unified Access, Cisco Unified Access, One Network Deep Dive. And then again on April 24th, Physical to Virtual, Accelerate Migration and Simplify Operations. Be sure to check out the support community on the various social networks, as well as check out our other languages. And real quick, let's get to our trivia answer. The correct answer was C. Cisco Prime Infrastructure helps monitor the IT network for KLM Airlines. Just want to say thank you to Tejas for being our expert speaker this week. Thank you to our question managers, and thank you to you, the attendees, for joining us today. We hope to see you next time.
Great, thank you so much, Dan. So that does conclude our session for today. Just a reminder that as you close out of WebEx, a short survey will appear. We greatly appreciate your feedback. Again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for our expert today. Have a great day.